Next conversation is one that I'm incredibly passionate about. It's about workforce retention, recruiting, things like that inside of the industry. It's something that has been on my heart since I've been in the industry, and something really that I'm excited to have a conversation about today, Sam.
No, definitely. It's really important, and I'm really glad that we've got our next two guests here to help dive a little bit deeper into it.
Absolutely, and those two guests are Althea Ricketts and Norbert Kreuzer. Thank you two so much for jumping on today.
Thank you
for having us.
Well, Norbert, we'll go ahead and start with you. We had a conversation before the show even started. You talked about really some of the barriers that currently exist between not only the recruiting standpoint from a talent standpoint, but also those educational institutions, right? Let's start there. What are some of the things from an educational side that you've seen as gateways into the AV industry?
So I think the biggest part is communication. You have to really reach out to schools and work with schools on what you need your workforce to look like. It's very challenging for schools, based on resources or all kinds of other reasons, to really know what the industry is like. So how can someone that doesn't know exactly how to prepare somebody for the workforce, prepare them for the workforce? So that dialogue needs to happen. And so there's a lot of opportunities even for employers, manufacturers to connect with schools on so many levels and to start that dialogue and conversation and work with schools versus waiting for a school to provide you with a product that then you feel doesn't work out.
No, definitely. And you mentioned communication is key. Now, do you find that it's easier now to gain more access to those schools and those individuals now that everything is a little bit more remote?
I think that makes things a little easier because you can do Zoom interviews, but ultimately I believe the in-person communication is still much easier simply because one of the challenges for students also is they don't really know this industry. So by just looking at it on the screen is not going to be the same experience. Put them in a warehouse with trucks and gear and LED walls and bring them here and they will be excited about it. But if they, quote unquote, just see it on a screen, I don't think it has the same impact.
Althea, I saw you light up as soon as he said that. We've got to follow up. What are some of the things as a manufacturer that you wish people came into the workforce with a little bit more knowledge of?
Oh, how much time do we have?
We've got plenty.
So we need more people like Norbert. We need more people like Christopher Hope from the Loop Lab. We need more people like my friend Christopher Fitzpatrick in the audience. We need people that will drive this. Because as we just talked about, it's not going to happen organically, right? It's not going to happen by us just waiting for it to happen. So as a manufacturer, we're looking at the traditional education paths, but we're also looking at different ways to get people in, right? Community. I just came from a foundation board meeting where we were talking about just this. And we talked about the different inputs into the industry. Community is a huge one. Those community kind of grassroots, because Norbert is actually right. Nobody knows about this industry, really. They see the pomp and circumstance in front, but they don't understand the weight behind it. So, yeah, lots of avenues that we can investigate. Not just the traditional education, but there are other things that we can explore, and we are doing that.
No, that's wonderful, because I know I'm newer to the industry, but I know growing up and in schools, like, that was not anything that I had even known, like, that you could have a career in. Yeah. So, like, what are some of the things you would tell these students, like, this is our industry, like, what are some of those touch points that you think that would be great for them to know about how wonderful this industry really is?
Here's what I tell them on day one. I tell them one thing. It says, whenever you hear sound come out of a speaker or see something on a display, somebody had to, how did it get there? Ask yourself that question, because it doesn't magically appear. And we live in a world today where people download apps and it's all there, but nobody asks how that app happened or anything of that nature. I mean, I have students coming from Minneapolis right now. I will ask tonight, well, how do you think when did you check your departure time for your flight, right? Oh, on that display. Well, how did that happen? And so it's that exploratory phase for these young creatives as well, because I really believe that you cannot be passionate about something that you don't know exists. So it's our job, I feel like, collaboratively to fill the workforce by exposing them, meaning students and the next generation of creatives to take over what's next.
Well, Althea, I think what's important too, and we're talking a lot about the technical execution and the technical side of the industry. We haven't had a lot of conversations about the engineering and the product design side. Talk about some of the challenges and needs that we're seeing from a more maybe traditional business standpoint that we haven't been able to meet yet.
So the engineers, the product development, that's easy. You can get an engineering degree and you can transfer it to what we need to do in our industry, right? It's that other kind of skill that's needed for our integrator market. You can't really go to school to be an integrator. You just can't. So how do we transfer some of the skills into that function? Just heard of an example from my friend Brad, who sits on the board, that says, you know what, we started exploring mechanics. They had the wherewithal to fix things, to use their hands. How do we transfer that to something that's applicable in our industry? And they're doing that. So you have to be creative. You have to look at different ways to get what we need in, and then we can explore how we can expand it.
And so what would you tell companies who are looking to hire new people? What would you tell them, like, so that they're going to give more opportunities for, you know, people maybe who just are starting to enter into the industry, or maybe who don't have a lot of that experience? Is there a way that we can kind of bridge that and then help them, you know, go into these organizations?
So one of the things I think is always that initial icebreaker is, for example, companies have abilities to go to schools and just do a product demo or just show off their equipment, and that sparks, you know, sparks interest in young people to maybe say, well, this could be a career for me. Because again, if they don't know, it could be a career. How would they ever get passionate about it? You know, we had a group of students a few weeks ago at Electrovoice in the anechoic chamber, and they were experiencing speaker demos and thought that was cool. And you know, I'm sure Shure actually has a Shure University. They do training programs, and so I think like I said, one of the things that would be great is to have the companies show off their products, even if it's not necessarily to sell it, but just to create awareness of it and what it could do, and then see, you know, what's next after that. So I think it's the initial spark that needs to be created that way.
I think that's excellent. So if we look around us and we see all these companies in this hall, right? So this month, Shure is having Bring a Child to Shure Day. And I think we have over 200 children that are coming. And this is from, I want to say from 5 all the way up to high school. I personally think by the time you get to high school, it's too late. You need to start earlier, right? So if every company in this hall did a Bring a Child to My Company Day to explore what we do, can you imagine how that could ripple effect that would be? So exactly, Norbert. I think you need to bring the young'uns, and I'm not talking about high school students, I'm talking about kindergarten, grade school, middle school, into the environment so they can start getting that energy in that youth and bring it forward.
I think one of the things too, and this is for both of you, when you look at the AV industry, a lot of times the point of entry is through hobbies or interests or volunteerism, right? Whether that's somebody who wants to be a video editor or somebody who wants to be a sound engineer. How do we help nurture that? We'll start, Norbert, with you on that educational side, right? Starting through even before that high school, right? How do we help foster that creativity? How do we help foster that, that hobby into a full-blown career?
I think most young people, including myself, at 15 and 16, they want to be rock stars because that's all they see. They want to be rappers or whatever it is. And so it's that's something that we try to do as best as we can, is to, you know, say, yeah, you can have that not as a career but as a hobby or as an activity, but it can lead you to something else. And that something else, I have frank conversations with students, is also a paycheck, and it's things like that. You know, people don't understand that. I think at that age either. They say, okay, I know I'm going to be this, and my stuff's going to be popular, and I'm going to be on Instagram, Spotify, or whatever it is. But, you know, a solid foundation as far as the paycheck goes and things like that, where you can even, I tell my students, you can supplement your creativity by working even part-time at a theater, at those types of things. That's and the one more thing I wanted to add that makes this career maybe a little different from other traditional careers is that there is no one job here. You know, you go to a nursing school and it's pretty much clear what you're going to be doing, right? A lot of traditional education, your college title is your job title. In this field, that's out the window. So it's that exercise that we try to do literally daily with these students to say, look, you know, we're not trying to shatter your dreams, not becoming the next Jay-Z. However, there's this. But the exposure is what needs to happen, and that's what we're working on hard in what we do.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, Thea?
I don't know if I can add anything to what Norbert said. I think he was spot on. Yeah.
Thank you.
You nailed it.
That's a heck of a cosign right there.
No, because he's in it, right? He created a path from a foundation that was already there, and the passion that he had, you know, kind of is driving that. Can you imagine if we had other people like that around the nation doing the same thing? So I applaud Norbert and folks like him that okay, so I got to jump in my sustainability piece of what I do right now. There's a man in the sustainability world. His name is Jason McClellan. He's an architect, and he's all about the Living Building Challenge. And one of his famous quotes, and I shared that with you, is that the only thing that can save us is a sustained awakening of the human heart. Norbert's heart is awakened, right? And he's able to go out and share his passion. I'm all about awakening hearts, so that's what my goal is, to awaken hearts so we can have more like Norbert, my friend Christopher Hope, because I think the traditional education path, absolutely, there's value in that. But for our industry, there needs to be a lot of more marketing that it exists. We need to have all of these pods that are here. I'm like, can you imagine if everyone in this auditorium took 2-3 kids into their world, how different that would make? So I'm about awakening hearts, and I think that's what we do here in what we do.
Well, you've definitely awakened our hearts. We really appreciate you being here and just sharing this information. And we hope, you know, all of you watching at home and here can really take something from that. So thank you so much for being here, Althea and Norbert. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you
you.
for
Thank
having
you.
me. Thank you.